A lot of people ask me, how do you go from accounting to comedy? And it's really easy if you're a bad accountant. Did you all hear Donald Trump wants to patent the expression, "you're fired"? That's nuts, because I heard it 3 times before I ever knew who Donald Trump was. I had the same approach to accounting my grandpa Rader had towards carpentry. That's close enough. I know that takes a second to get, but But the last job I actually had was in a small accounting firm in Tulsa named Marley Scrooge CPAs. We had this managing partner, Ebenezer Scrooge. The guy was nuts, right? I got in trouble on Halloween for coming to the office dressed like a ghost. Sheet, eye holes. You people don't watch a lot of television, do you? But the worst part was, at our Christmas parties, Mr. Scrooge would get up and speak during them. The last one I went to, he stands up and he goes, "Nobody next year gets a raise or a bonus because I didn't make as much money as I should." That'll motivate your employees. 2 hours later, Mr. Scrooge caught me singing the Oscar Mayer Baloney song. Y'all remember my baloney has a first name, it's O-S-C-A-R, right? But I changed the words a little bit. I was singing, "My job is missing one thing, it's M-O-N-E-Y. And everybody here is L-O-O-N-Y. I hate to come to work each day, but if you ask me why I stay, it's 'cause Mr. Scrooge finds a way to make me feel depressed each day." 9 o'clock the next morning is when I became a comedian. My wife likes to point out that's not that far from the truth. But today we're going to talk a little bit about stress. Before we do, though, when I decided to become a speaker, which is quite a bit different than being an accountant, I decided I wanted my corporate culture to reflect the values that I speak about, and as you'll see this afternoon, I talk about having a very relaxed and a very creative environment. So I decided I would always follow the fashion advice of Gilda Radner. Y'all remember Gilda Radner on Saturday Night Live? Gilda said her fashion sense was based on what didn't itch. So I decided I'd always wear comfortable clothes, and I find running pants and t-shirts and running shoes to be very comfortable, and this is the way I dress everywhere I go. And I always get a couple of questions. The first one's always, "Do you need a place to change?" It's like, "No," and then it's always, "Oh, did the airline lose your luggage?" Right, when I showed up this afternoon, Jane looked at me like I owed her money or something. But today we're going to talk a little bit about stress, and we're going to talk about, first of all, what are the origins of our stress, and then we're going to talk about why humor is such an important tool when it comes to relieving stress. There's a lot of research being done on the changes in our society. There are 3 segments of our population that have grown dramatically in the last 30 years. Those include dual-income families, people where both spouses have a career, single parents, and taking care of aging parents. All of these sociological changes are causing more stress in our society as we go along. Stress is not just an uncomfortable emotion. There are physiological changes that take place in our bodies when we experience stress. Our bodies are built for physical stress, someone trying to hurt us, someone trying to steal our food. There are over 100 physiological changes that take place in your body when you experience physical stress. These include increase in your respiration, increase in your heart rate, increase in your metabolism, and increase in your blood pressure. All of these physiological changes are preparing our bodies for fight or flight, to either fight somebody or to turn and flee from them. Our bodies and our minds don't recognize the difference between physical stress, someone trying to hurt us, and emotional stress, just having too much to do with too little time to do it. As our bodies go through emotional stress, we continue to go through all those same physiological changes, preparing us for fight or flight. But what research now shows is that when we go through those physical changes without the outlet of fight or flight, is that those physiological changes begin to suppress your immune system. And your immune system, as you know, is what keeps you healthy. It is estimated today that United States businesses spend $150 billion a year on job stress-related illnesses alone. It is also estimated by the American Medical Association that 75 to 90% of all physician office calls are somehow related to a stress-related illness. Stress-related illnesses can be as minor as headaches and insomnia to as major as high blood pressure, heart disease, strokes, and 3 years ago they actually released 2 separate studies that are now linking some forms of cancer to the suppression of our immune system due to the fight or flight mechanism. One of those cancers is breast cancer. And as you know, breast cancer is going to touch something like 1 in 8 women in our country today. So not only is stress a major aspect of our health care as a society, it's a tremendous aspect of your own individual health. I think it's important that you first understand what are the origins of your stress and then find ways to relieve that stress. So let's get started. One of the best books ever, before I do though, last night I was sitting around watching a hockey game, and I got to thinking, wouldn't it be great if we had the same rules at work that they have in hockey? Right? Someone upsets you, what do? You whip the fool out of each other. What are the repercussions? You have to sit in your office for 2 minutes. Right? If you're really bad, they send you home for the day. Be a lot of fights at lunch on Friday, wouldn't there? But one of the best books I ever read is by a guy named Richard Carlson. Y'all see the books at the bookstore that say, don't sweat the small stuff? Richard Carlson wrote those as well. But before he became a big star, he wrote a book titled, You Can Be Happy No Matter What. And in there, Richard Carlson points out that there are 5 components to healthy psychological functioning that lead to contentment, even though your life may not be perfect. These include your thoughts, your feelings, your moods, separate psychological realities, and finally living in the present moment. This afternoon, I want to talk about those first 2, our thoughts and our feelings. Most people believe that stress is just inherent to a situation. You know, I'm in healthcare, so I'm just naturally going to have feelings of stress. Richard Carlson points out that before you experience any sort of feeling or emotion, you have thoughts that precede those feelings or emotions. Before you all experience any sort of feeling or emotion, you have thoughts that precede those feelings or emotions. If you all feel happy this afternoon, it's because you've had happy thoughts that have preceded those feelings of happiness. If you feel sad today, it's because you've had sad thoughts that have preceded those feelings of sadness. And finally, if you feel stressed out, it's because you've had stressful thoughts that have preceded those feelings of stress. Anytime we experience a situation, we instantly have thoughts about that situation. Our thoughts are our attempt to interpret that situation. Based upon our interpretation, we have an emotional response or a feeling. Let me repeat that. Anytime y'all experience a situation, you instantly have thoughts about that situation. Your thoughts are your attempt to interpret that situation. Based upon your interpretation, you have an emotional response or a feeling. That is why 2 people can experience the exact same situation and have completely different emotional responses. They've had different thoughts that have gone through their mind. They did a study of the top 10 things Americans are afraid of. Anybody know what the number 1 fear Americans have? Public speaking. Number 2 is death. I don't get this at all. More people in this country are afraid to get up in front of a crowd to speak than to die, which I think is kind of, y'all know Jerry Seinfeld, the comedian? He said that means if you're at a funeral, you'd rather be in the box than delivering the eulogy. I'm one of those sick people that can't wait to get up in front of a crowd. Anytime I think about getting up in front of a crowd, I have different thoughts that go through my mind. If you learn nothing else from me, begin to recognize you are the architect of your stress. And your stress comes from your thoughts. And your thoughts about situations that you find stressful are no more important than your thoughts about any other situation. They're simply thoughts. They're simply thoughts.